Well, hello everyone. I wanted to wrap up or make some comments sort of as we're wrapping up the online course here in human biology and evolution. I wanted to wrap up with some concluding comments on sort of the larger picture. And you've seen now the origin of our lineage, Homo, our genus, in a primate adaptation or an adaptive radiation of primates on the order of 5 or 6 million years ago. And that adaptation resulted in several hominins. You remember there were the robust and the gracile Australopithecines and early Homo, for example. And so that early on adaptation or adaptive radiation was biological. And so you see, 3 different kinds of hominins living in perhaps different areas even of the African ecosystem. Some more in the drier regions, and some towards the lakes, and some towards forested areas. Subsequently, then, you saw the extinction, certainly, of the robust Australopithecines, so a large bipedal, basically I think of the robust as a dryland walking gorilla. But they become extinct, and at 1 million years you don't see them anymore, and we don't see anything in the fossil record that shows that they evolved into something else. Nope, they become extinct. A common fate for many life forms, of course. 99% of all the things that have ever lived, according to the paleontological record, has become extinct. So you see robusts become extinct, then you see graciles. Perhaps the graciles evolve into early Homo. That's been, that's a pretty good interpretation. And of course, there's a new fossil hominin you can look up called Australopithecus sediba, S-E-D-I-B-A. Sediba is a very nice transition, it looks like, between gracile Australopithecines and early Homo. If you want a missing link, although I cautioned you about that term, but if you want a missing link between Australopithecus and Homo, Sediba is a good representative. Of course, any life form is a link between previous and future forms. So every life form is a missing link, really. Anyway, you see the evolution of Homo, and then you saw the spread of Homo out of Africa and their adaptation to environments worldwide. And one of the things that I'd really like to emphasize is that with that adaptation, you do not get the attendant speciation that you would expect of such a widely distributed life form. That is, most life forms, if they adapt to high plateaus or the mountains or the coast range or the desert areas, all of these areas that humans have adapted to, and we live everywhere. Most life forms that are adapted to that wide a variety of environments, they do so biologically. That is, their biological systems adapt. Humans are unique in that we adapt in a completely different way, although we have some biological differences. There are minor things, skin color, hair texture. These differ a little bit in certain areas, but those are minor, and we're all certainly within the species Homo sapiens. And what's really most critically important to remember is that humans adapt by culture, and it's cultural adaptation that really characterizes us rather than biological adaptation. And so cultural adaptation, what is it? Well, it's devising a new language to describe new things in your environment, to better attach yourself or map your activities to those resources, for example. It is creating new metaphors, it's creating new mythological traditions that basically explain the world in which you find yourself. So humanity has essentially created itself. It's made itself and made its adaptations in this cultural rather than biological way. There are some biological differences. There are, of course, some issues about race and so on that are important, but not important because they're biologically significant. They're important because social issues, or they have been made a social issue for thousands of years. People have looked at people who don't look like themselves and attempted to explain that. Well, they're descendants of some other group, or they're savages, or they're oh look, they're very much like us, so they're not quite savages. They're barbarians, let's say. So humans have made a lot of these differences in the phenotype. Remember, the phenotype was the thing built by the genetic instruction, the genotype. Humans have made a lot of, socially and culturally, out of slight phenotypic variation in the human species. And I'll have some comments on that and an audio clip for you on that later on. But that's really what I wanted to point out, is to recall that, why is there humanity all across the globe? Well, we spread out, we diversify, and how do we do that diversification and that adaptation? We do it culturally, much more so than biologically. A few biological adaptations, but mostly cultural. And that goes right back to the earliest use of stone tools and that phrase that I mentioned a long time back now, the decoupling of behavior from anatomy. If you go back to your notes or however you're taking note of this material, the decoupling of behavior from anatomy, it's a great phrase that encapsulates the beginning of how our genus, Homo, really took off in terms of its success in adapting worldwide. I think that's it for now.